Give yourself permission to do it or not, depending on what works for you, what's aligned with you. But allow yourself the time and sort of that commitment to sort of say, I want to find out what's good for me. And then I'm going to wholeheartedly commit to that.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. My new best friend, Martine, is with us today. And I'm so excited for the topic we are going to be talking about. It's those beliefs that we live our lives by. Do you have those unconscious? Do you ever live on autopilot? You know, how I chose to live this life. But how many of those choices were autopilot? Something that just happened and I didn't really think through it. So what are these things that are holding us back in our careers? What are these, I call them, or lots of people call them, limiting beliefs? But they're just ways that we look at the world, right? And so Martine's going to help us to understand what these beliefs are, how they could be holding us back, and how to shed them and move forward and move through our lives. But before we get started, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. When we come back, Martine, help me shed those limiting beliefs. We'll be right back.
This is Adam Adams, co-founder of Optimized LLC, where we take the guesswork out of your health. If you're feeling exhausted, struggling with weight, or just not feeling yourself anymore, your hormones might be the problem. And that's why we test, not guess. Analyzing your blood work to pinpoint exactly what's holding you back. At Optimized LLC, we help you rebalance your hormones, boost energy, and reclaim your life. Don't settle for normal. Aim for optimized. Just go to optimized.com to book your free introductory coaching call. It's a free call to help you take the first step toward feeling your best.
All right, Martine, how are you doing today? I'm so excited to have you here on this show. The information about you is in the show notes, but let's talk about these limiting beliefs. You know, as a leader, I get a lot of stuff done, but could I get even more done with less time? That's what I want. How could I change my beliefs to have a better balance in my life?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show, Lara Jane. It's a pleasure to be here today. So a lot of people ask those kind of questions. I feel overwhelmed. I feel depleted. I feel burnt out. I love what I do, or I want to do what I've been doing, but I don't know why it feels that way. And the reality is that we have to first take a step back and just take a deep breath, recenter, reset our nervous system, because we're overloaded today. The truth is that we wake up in the morning and our brain is already overly saturated. Right? There's social media, there's news, and nothing's ever good. Nothing's ever positive. So we already have a lot to contend with. Plus we wear so many different hats, especially as women. A lot of us are moms, we're wives, we're sisters, we're friends, we work outside the home as well. So there's very, very little time for me, for the you, right? And to go deeply inside of you and sort of check in with yourself and see how you're doing. Most people don't do that. They're very externally oriented. Right? We measure our success and we measure how worthy we are and how good we did today by how much we got accomplished on the outside. But we never checked in with ourselves to see, how am I actually doing on the inside? How am I feeling? Is what I'm doing aligned with what I truly want to be doing? Or am I people pleasing? Am I running after something? Am I afraid from something? Am I doing something out of guilt, out of obligation, out of shame? But how does it feel to me? Am I having this internal conversation where I'm like, do I want to be doing this now? Does this serve my overall purpose? Is this part of my well-being plan, right? Is this part of the path that I want to be living? Because we create our life every day with every little action that we take, right? It's not sort of like all of a sudden you wake up one morning like, oh my goodness, why is my life like this? And why am I feeling so overwhelmed? Why am I feeling so, where my battery's running on empty? It's actually a series of actions that we take at every moment of every day that leads and starts creating our life experience. And so when we take a step back and we go inward and we're like, am I doing too much? And if I am doing too much, what's causing me to do too much? I never say why with my clients, because why is judgment. And judgment's going to go in a direction that you don't want to go in. What is exploration? What is curiosity? And I tell my clients a lot, and audiences like yours, Instead of worrying about something, instead of criticizing yourself or instead of blaming somebody else, just get curious. When something's not going your way, just ask questions. Start getting curious, lean into it just a little bit, not too much because that could get scary, but just a bit and say, well, what is this about? What is my discomfort or my depletion trying to tell me? And if I really want, I'm gung ho on doing too much, what's pushing me to do too much? Because chances are it's not you. It's not your body if your body needs rest. It's not your mind if it needs calm and inner peace. And it's not your emotional body if it kind of just needs to reset. It's either an expectation, I should do this, I have to do this. If I don't do this, people are not going to like me anymore. If I don't do this, then I'm not going to be keeping up with the neighbors. If I don't do this, then I'm not going to be a good parent. I'm not going to be a good wife. I'm not going to be a good friend. I might not be, a good, entrepreneur or a good CEO. Or so we have all these expectations on our head as we wake up in the morning. And then we have the internal chatter, right? That kind of like your brain doesn't stop. It's 2 a.m. You wish you could go to sleep. And it's like, hello, this is when I'm going to unravel your entire day and tell you how horrible you did today. And why didn't you say this? And how could you say that? And so said this to me. Does that mean that now they don't like me anymore? I should have answered like this. Why didn't I say anything? And on and on and on for hours on end instead of giving you calm, quiet peace, right? We're all familiar with that internal chatter. So how do we get that quiet? We get that quiet not by numbing it. We get it quiet by actually leaning into it and saying, okay, slow down. I'm going to listen to you, but I'm going to read between the lines and understand, what are you trying to tell me? You literally talk your brain off the ledge. Am I doing too much? Or am I doing too much in the path of struggle? Like if I'm climbing a mountain as opposed to sort of, can I find my flow? Because in flow, you can accomplish so much, but with ease rather than with struggle. And some people, because of what they've learned or what they were conditioned when they were young, believe that the only way to earn something is with struggle. Struggle equals success. Struggle equals value. Struggle equals worthiness. No. If you do something that you're aligned with, that makes sense to you, that has meaning for you, and that you truly desire to do, you're going to do it with ease. It doesn't mean there's no effort, but it means there's no struggle. And most of our struggle is in here. It's not even external with somebody else. So when you quieten the mind and you start listening to all the parts of your body that says, yes, I want to be a mom, but I'm going to do it this way. Or yes, I want to be a good wife, but it doesn't mean I have to be available and put myself last or not even on the list, right? A lot of moms are not even on their list. They're not last priority. They're not a priority at all, right? So how do you balance those things out? It's by understanding what drives you and whether you want to be driven by what is driving you currently, or you want to be in your own driver's seat. So that's really part of it. So that's a beginning of it. And when we start asking questions, we get a lot of clarity, and it's very surprising the kind of answers we get. And most of the time, when I speak to women, what they tell me is, oh, I didn't realize it was this fear that I had about not being enough. It was this, not wanting to rock the boat and get people to maybe not like me for a minute. But then the question is, when you do all this for everybody else, do you like you? Do you like you in the way that you feel? Do you like feeling like this? Do you like being depleted all the time? And if you don't, then where are you on your priorities list? And do you think you like the fact that you're not on your priorities list? And if you had a best friend come to you, what would you want them to tell you? And then why aren't you telling yourself the same thing?
So many points that you've rattled up. We're going to start with most recent and go backwards.
Sure.
I love this, getting yourself on the priority list, because for years, it's, where do I balance my priorities? Where I'm on my priority list, but maybe we could fit this in.
It's a sliding scale and it usually goes downwards.
And it can't, it's like, oh, I expect too much. You start feeling like there's not enough left for you. And I kind of sometimes use this analogy of, you can be the cleanest, sexiest race car in whatever most beautiful color you love. But if it's in the garage without gas, you're not going anywhere. Then maybe that's what you want. And maybe you've got just enough gas to get to the gas station and you're like, okay, let's go. And you get to the gas station, you go, oh, this takes so long to fill up. I'll just do $5 and I'll be on my way. Well, what you've just done is cause yourself to refill up again. sooner and more often than you would if you just took it the first time, like I'm going to fill it all the way up. I'll be 2 minutes late for work and everybody will be okay. We have all these shoulds, all these things that we think we have to do, but we forget that giving ourselves the time to completely fill up is going to be more value to everybody else than you have any idea that it would. And so I really like those points that you were bringing up and just wanted to share that's like sometimes we're so busy that we don't give ourselves enough time to recharge. It's putting your cell phone everywhere you go on the slow charge. Like, oh, don't have enough
Minimum
charge
charge.
yet.
Yeah.
And you
So
just don't fill up.
yeah, and to your point, so that cliche that, when you're on the airplane and you need to put the oxygen mask and they tell you to put yours first so that you can put other people's or help your kids. We don't do that in real life. We get it when it comes to an airplane in a specific context and we won't fight that. But in everything else where it's up to us, we don't have agency over that. We don't own that and say, no, I need to put my oxygen mask first. Not because, the flight attendant told me to on the plane, because when we're our own leader, we rarely, take the lead and say, no, this is the right thing to do, because guilt comes in, emotions come in, shame comes in, and all that and like you said, all the shoulds come in. But in my book, I talk about needs versus wants. And that's really important when we're talking about the priority list. We have a lot of wants in the world, and consumerism creates a lot more wants. And then people come and say, I need this and I need that. And we want to please them. We don't need to please them. We want to please them because we think it's going to feel good, because we think we're going to be accepted, because we think we're not going to be criticized, because we're people pleasing, because we're not on our list. However, if we don't meet our needs, we'll never be able to go get our wants. And there's an internal tug of war, a constant one in the brain and in our bodies between needs and wants. And that can lead to chronic pain, and that can lead to exhaustion, that can lead to depression, that can lead to all sorts of things. But when we reel it back in and say, for a minute, hold on a second, I am responsible for me. Nobody else is, only I am. And I'm responsible to meet my own needs. And after that, I can go meet everybody else's needs, which are wants for me. I want to meet their needs. I don't need to meet their needs. I need to meet mine first. And how many of us meet our needs? How many of us even know what our needs are?
Well, and that's one of the things I was thinking when you were saying that is I need to do this. And I remember, well, technically I need absolutely nothing. Like, I've got the air, I can find some water, I don't need a house. These are things that I want. I need shelter, but how much shelter do you need? And the cool thing is this is your choice. I don't think we ever sit down and go, how much shelter do I really want? Because I need some. How much do I want and what is livable? And how much time do I need to spend there? And do I need transportation? And do I need all these things? Water, milk, groceries. I have way more groceries in my house than I ever need. It's like some people are very minimalistic, and I always have buy two. That way, when you run out, you're not out. So we all have a different way. And so this is the cool
Right.
part is you get to pick what your need is and where that level is.
But there's also a whole other series of needs that we kind of like discard or put to the side because we're taught that we have to be, especially as women, we're conditioned, right, to be nurturers and to be givers, but not as much receivers. A lot of us have trouble receiving and receiving well because it feels awkward, because it's easier for us to give. But if it's easier for us to give, we're not going inward and making sure that we're receiving or that we're giving ourselves as well. So those kind of needs that are beyond just survival needs, then we're getting into more sophisticated kind of needs. And are you meeting your own needs, or are you running yourself on empty? Are you exhausting yourself, working, 15-hour days between a job, or a role as an entrepreneur, or, top leadership in a company? And then you come home and you have a second job with your kids, right? And then, you have a husband, and then you do have extended family, and then you have friends, and then you have aging parents perhaps, and then you have siblings. And so it goes on and on and on. And then there are expectations on you. You should be hosting the family dinners or the this or the, the Christmases or whatever it is. And so the list doesn't end. And we just keep saying yes rather than stopping for a second and say, wait, what do I need within all of this? If I need, so I'm a cappuccino lover. I love cappuccinos anywhere I go, anywhere in the world. When I travel, I first go and I taste a cappuccino. So every morning before I do anything, I have my time where I sort of like exercise, I reflect, I do some yoga, some meditation, but then I have my cappuccino. And when I'm making my cappuccino every day, and this might sound funny, but it works, I'll take that moment to focus on what I'm making and I'll make it just like what I'm in the mood for that morning, whether it's a little bit of cinnamon, chocolate, both, warmer, colder, more milk, less milk, whatever. I have this great machine because I think I was a barista in a former life, but it's a lot of fun for me. So, and my friends know that. They'll come over, family comes over, they're like, okay, she's going to make the cappuccino and it's customized. So I have fun with that. But and it can take 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not long. But in that moment, I'm not thinking of anything else. I'm focused on having fun with it, creating my cappuccino, savoring it, sipping it. And for me, that's how I start my day. And that's starting my day on the correct foot for me because now I'm full. Why? Because I spent a few moments with me and putting out everything else. There's no noise. There's no, I need this, come on, da, 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 the email, the phones, the text. Just, you can take 10 minutes of your morning. We all have 10 minutes. Wake up 10 minutes earlier if you need to, but take that time for yourself. And whether it's a short walk in nature, it's painting, it's, listening to music or creating some music, whatever your thing is, but take it on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to be consistent. And you will thank you. In other words, when you take time to spend time just with you for a moment and you don't have a lot of time, it doesn't have to be big, it could be quality time, but your mind has to be focused on you and on what you're doing in that moment. Then it becomes a very rich experience. It doesn't need to be long, but it fills you up. And then you can go out and give to others because you've just oxygenated yourself.
I love it because, we talk about all these morning routines and all these things that make you feel better, but have you tried it? Like the morning miracle, I think they tell you to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm never going to do that. But have you tried it? How do you know? Like I can say, I need to sleep. There's no way I'm ever getting up at that time. But I don't know until I've experimented if it's good for me. It's great for the person who wrote the book, and there's so many morning routines out there. But the whole cool thing is you get to pick yours. And if it gets stale and you decide you don't like cinnamon on your cappuccino ever again, you don't ever have to put it there again. It's your thing. And we get to pick. And that is so freeing when you think, "Huh, what does work for me?"
Right.
But
And
it's
a lot
that
of us don't know that.
curious. Yeah,
Yes, a
it's
lot
that
of us don't
curious.
know that. They don't know, a lot of us don't know that. A lot of women don't know what's good for them, or they're being told, right? And all sorts of things. Okay, you must get up, you have to be part of the 5 a.m. club, or you have to do this, or you have to go out every day. That's fine for some people. So that's great. Try it out. But give yourself permission to do it or not, depending on what works for you, what's aligned with you. But allow yourself the time, right? And sort of that commitment to sort of say, I want to find out what's good for me. And then I'm going to wholeheartedly commit to that. And it can be as innocuous as a cappuccino or as a small walk or as just taking a shower, but really feeling it, not taking it to get ready and go on, just as a standalone, right? Whatever you're going to do it as a standalone where nothing else exists. You kind of pause time. And it could be literally 10, 15 minutes, but you're going to be so replenished from it because now you've just done what works for you.
And I'm so with it. If you have to hurry, at least give yourself a meditation time. It's like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 meditate, like what are the 5 things I can see? What are, and go through one of those in those moments because that's taking you from all the rush and pressure from what's outside of you
Yeah.
and taking that and pausing it while you're thinking about these other things. And it's just an easy way to force yourself present for a moment. Someone's having anxiety. What can you show? What can you see? What can you hear? And you
Right.
start really pushing on those senses of our bodies, and it helps you to tune into you instead of the outside part. And I think that's key because anxiety is just worry and things of we don't need to be thinking about all that external stuff unless it's needed right now.
And anxiety actually doesn't live in the present time. Anxiety lives in the future. Even if it's 2 seconds away, it's always in the future. So anxiety is about something that could happen, might happen, will happen. Your brain believes it's going to happen and also believes you don't have the tools to deal with it. Like if we really unpack what anxiety means, that's what it is. And therefore, if we get curious, even if that uncomfortable feeling of anxiety as you feel it coming up. I had a client once who suffered like that from panic attacks in the middle of the highway, right? So that was like sort of overwhelmed anxiety, anxiety 2.0. And we worked through it by her realizing it and me showing her that it wasn't whatever she was panicking about that was causing it. It was the panic about the panic attack coming on. So it was the fear that her brain was like, oh my God, I feel a panic attack coming on. And then that would create a full blown panic attack about anything and everything and not things that she really would not be able to handle. It's rare that we're going to be in a real fight or flight mode where our life is truly in danger. And that's why we have anxiety. That's why we have a panic attack. We're lucky, right? In 2025, this is not how we're living. However, and there's no like hunter that's coming or prey animal that's coming to eat you. But our brain reacts like that to everything and any stimulation that's unknown to it and that feels like it's a threat, but it may not be a threat. It doesn't ask you, hey, do you want me to give you anxiety over this and this? Right? Because like, do you feel like this is how you should be reacting to this? Is this aligned with you? So we don't ask and question our feelings, our emotions. They're just messages. So when you feel anxiety about something, lean into it and say, well, wait a minute. Am I truly afraid that if, tomorrow I get to work and I only have 5 hours to do the work and I feel I need more time, that I can't go talk to my boss about it? I can't get a team member to help me out. In other words, when I start looking at it from a solution-oriented place, the anxiety sort of lessens because it wasn't fully based on anything real in the first place. It was anticipation, imagination, a concoction of the brain. It's a whole story that your brain tells you without asking you if you even want the story. And it gives you the conclusion. Here you go, anxiety. And now you feel it in your body and you're like, where's this coming from? I must be terrified of this. And it must be true that this is terrifying. Therefore, I need to stay away from it. But nobody asked you for your opinion. Nobody asked you, hey, do you feel you don't have the tools for this? So we need to really start questioning on deeper levels and not being afraid to feel what we feel, but understanding that it's simply a message. And then we have the right and the choice to decide whether or not that message is something we agree with. And if we don't agree with it, then it's just a reaction from your brain. And you're like, thanks so much, but I'm good. I've got this. And you go back in the driver's seat rather than your anxiety, rather than the fear, rather than the sadness, or rather than the emptiness, or rather than the overwhelm.
I'm trying to think through this because sometimes I and this is probably sounds so illogical, but anxiety can also give you a peace. And it's that, oh, it's I've got this under control. I'm panicking. I'm going to get it done. And it's like, oh, when I'm in that, I got to do this now. I'm very quick at getting something done, but I hate that feeling. So I try to avoid it and get it done earlier. But sometimes it's like, okay, my extra service power has kicked in now. So sometimes my anxiety makes me feel good because I know I'm going to get this stuff done.
So it's interesting what you're saying, because some people do say that. They say that anxiety is sort of like a motivating factor, their motor. But anxiety is not a positive feeling. It's very chaotic energy. So that leads to one of the primary layers I talk about in my book, which is around trust. Some people who don't trust themselves, or trust that they can be consistent, or trust that they can motivate themselves, or trust that they can get something done, then their body and their brain will use anxiety to sort of propel them forward. It's an exhausting process. It does work in short term. It's almost like a Band-Aid solution. But long term, it's really an exhausting proposition where, again, they're not going to be on their priority list at all. Eventually, they're just going to fall off because it's this nervous energy that long term can create chronic issues and sort of mental pain as well. Not to mention emotional instability, where they don't like the feeling of anxiety, but now they believe that that's the only way they're going to get anything done. And that's kind of like almost like a diss to themselves, right? Because it's like, what? I can't just like happily and joyfully go do something. So then I have to ask myself, what is it that makes it about this thing that only anxiety can get me to do it? Is this something that should be in the realm of things that I need to be doing in the first place? Because I'm an adult now, so I have agency over myself. I own me and my actions and my choices. So if I'm putting this in my, realm of things that I need to be doing on my to-do list, well, why is it there? If it's there for a valid reason, great. If I have an internal tug of war about it, I need to go figure out what that's about. And whether it's brain-based or it's something I truly would not want to do and is not aligned with me, and maybe that's why I don't want to do it in the first place. I need to understand where that lack of motivation is coming from, because when we understand ourselves so much better, and then we can redirect the way we think to a place where it actually allows us to do what we want to do, but in a good way, where it makes us feel good and empowered.
I love it because what I was trying to explain is just another limiting belief. You
Yeah.
know, it's just a belief. I believe I get more done when I'm anxious. And
Therefore, your brain will give you more anxiety so that you can
Yep.
get more things done. But anxiety doesn't feel good. And over time, it really does deplete your body in different ways.
right. And so it is, how come I think this is the only way? But it's back to that curiosity of interrogating yourself in a loving, kind, beautiful way to figure out why is it? Because none of us are more productive that way.
Right.
We may
Well,
be productive and we may have overcome, but we could be equally as productive in another situation if we chose.
and it could
So,
feel better.
and you wouldn't have to go through that crap.
Exactly.
And then have end up with a migraine and then all the things that come after.
Sure. Exactly.
So I really like how we've talked about some of these beliefs and some of these things. And how do I let go of them? Like, what if my limiting belief was I get more done if I wait till the last minute? It's like going on vacation. You get more done at the office on that last day than ever before.
Right.
What is it about that
So
belief? How do I change it?
that's dopamine in the brain. So that depends what it is, right? So getting more done on the last days because you're excited because you're going away. You're not present in the moment. You're future thinking. You know that there's sort of a beginning and an end, and after that you get a reward. So that's your reward system that comes in. That's a little bit different. But if we're talking about just anxiety in general, is to go and lean in and really get curious about, and we'll use your example. What is it about what it is that I'm wanting to do that doesn't motivate me in the first place? Because if I need anxiety to motivate me, that means there's something else going on inside of me, and I want to know what that is. I don't want to just eliminate the anxiety because it'll come back in different ways. But if I truly understand it, I can choose to find a different mechanism to do what I need to do. So, two things. First, I need to look at whether this anxiety is sort of like all encompassing. Do I have it every time I need to do anything in my life, or a certain category of things, or just one specific thing? Is it just about exercising or eating healthier, or is it about all the tasks that I have to do in my day? What is it about? And what is it trying to tell me? If my body's using anxiety to get things done, that means that without the anxiety, do I not have enough energy? Do I not have enough motivation? Is there not enough meaning in what I'm trying to do? Because if there's no meaning in what we're doing, we're not going to be able to do it. We're wired to need meaning. We need to have fulfillment. We need to feel good about things, but it also has to mean something to us. It doesn't have to mean something to the next door neighbor or to the person next to you or to your coworker. It has to mean something to you. And in that sense, we each have to have our individual paths. And that's okay. You have to give yourself permission not to be like the other person, but to do your thing. Do you really well. And that'll give you a lot of life satisfaction. But do it really well. But the only way to do that is to get to know who you are, first of all, because the entire world tells you who you are. But doesn't mean that's actually who you are. Do this, follow this routine, go here, go there, get this training, don't do this, do that. We're bombarded all the time, right? That's the FOMO, the needing to belong, the followers, the this, that. But instead, if you get to know yourself so well that you know what works for you and you stick to that no matter what, sort of the pressures on the outside, you'll have a much better life experience. And so the anxiety is here to tell you a message that I can't get this done in the healthy way. So I'm doing this for you because you want to get this done. So the brain is trying to serve you. So it's going to give you anxiety because it knows that this is how you get it done. It has no discernment in terms of whether what it's telling you is good or bad. It just has a goal. Whatever she wants, that's what happens. Which is why, for example, if we have negative thoughts and we buy into them, the brain's like, oh, okay, she likes those, so we'll give her more negative thoughts. So a person who's negative is going to become more negative, and a person who's positive becomes more positive, not because of their personality, because they've programmed their brain without knowing to give them more and generate more of that. Same thing. Your brain's like, ooh, how do we get this done? Okay, let's give her this nervous, anxious, um, sort of energy because it boosts her because she hates it, but it gets it done. Doesn't matter that she hates it because the brain doesn't judge anything. But if we don't want to feel that way, we need to go understand why is that our go-to mechanism. And it's a subconscious one. It's below conscious level. So it's not intentional. It's not on purpose. There's no blame. There's just really getting curious with no judgment. That's the key to our finding our empowerment and our inner power again, because we give it up every time we have anxiety, every time we don't feel good about something, every time we do something that's not aligned, we give up some of our power. So we need to gather it back and reel it back into where it belongs, because then you don't feel depleted anymore. So the idea really is to understand, what is it about this anxiety that makes me actually go do something? And why is it there in the first place? And can I replace it with something that feels better? And then if I can't, I need to go evaluate, why am I doing or making myself do what I think I'm supposed to do in the first place that only works with the anxiety? In other words, there's two things. It's understanding that feeling around anxiety, but also understanding the task or whatever it is that I'm asking myself to do and whether that's aligned. Because sometimes that's what the problem is. It's not the right goal for the person. I have to be the perfect mom. I have to do this. Yeah, but maybe that doesn't work for who you are. And that's why you need the anxiety, or else you're not going to get it done. Maybe you think you still have to continue doing the job that you're doing, but if it's no longer meaningful to you, you need to ask completely different questions, not push yourself to keep doing it, because you're pushing yourself right into the ground, right into depletion.
How do I find these new questions? I just stay curious or like,
Yeah. So honestly, in my book, I have a whole bunch of exercises and client stories and really insight, and I walk sort of the reader through their own journey. So it really is almost like hand holding. Like a lot of my readers have told me, I feel like you're in my living room talking to me or right next to me. And I'm like, great, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted my book to meet you where you're at. Um, but yeah, it's learning the art of questioning. And you start slow, and it's really bypassing any internal resistance. And that's why it works. Because usually at some point, if you start questioning, your brain's going to shut it down for you. And it'll be like, okay, it's too much, or you're rocking the boat too much, or I don't want to know all the skeletons in my closet or whatnot. So there are ways to learn to do it sort of step by step, where you'll really be able to go deeply and your brain's just going to go along for the ride.
so I'm going to go find the book. Because, I think sometimes I get stuck in that loop.
Yeah.
I want to ask more questions to be more curious about it. But the same thing, how the kid keeps like, why, why? You just start cycling and it's like, okay, how do I throw this away so I can find a new question? So I think this would be really good because sometimes it's just coming at it a new direction.
Yeah.
How can I look at the problem differently to see a new solution?
Yeah, and it's also about getting to know you, because often what we're so solution oriented, like with my clients, when they start talking to me about an issue, I know that's never the issue. It's the symptom. It's not the source. It's not the cause. So I take that, because for me, it's like the little crack at the window opening, right? Where I can walk in, and then we start talking about that. And inevitably it goes back to self. It goes back to them. And then it goes back to limited beliefs, and it goes back to layers that they have that they're not even aware of, and a different way to understand themselves, first of all, before they even go out and understand the rest of the world or their interactions. And that's very, very powerful, because they have a shift right away of re-empowerment and feeling who they are. And then it's like, okay, I want more of that. And so
Yeah.
that's what we do in coaching. That helps a lot. And we question, but we also just explore. And they really get to know themselves in ways that they didn't know themselves before. And then they're much better equipped to go out into the world.
I love the explore. And it's like, okay, I always turn right. What if I went straight? What if I went left? Which is totally off the subject, but if you drive with my husband, he will take a new route all the time. Like, I never know where we're going. Like, where are we going? Oh, I'm going this direction. And he just loves to explore the city. But, he's doing it so he knows new things and knows new
Right.
stuff. And I'm like, I just want to get there.
Right. So it's two different goals. It's two different goals. One is to get there and one is to experience, right? And the
Mhm.
idea of, exploring. So in the book, I call it the adventurer mindset. Like, what if you woke up every morning to your life with an adventurer mindset, regardless of what's on your calendar? And what I mean by that is, When we go on an adventure, on a trip, on a safari, somewhere we've never been before, you're all excited, right? Your mind's open, right? You're excited. You trust that you have what you need, but you don't know what to expect, but you're okay with that because that's part of the purpose, right? You're open to whatever comes your way. You know you'll deal with it because you know you have the tools, you prepared in advance, but you're open-minded. There's no judgment, no expectations. And in fact, that's part of the fun. That question mark, that unknown becomes fun, interesting. So imagine waking up to life every morning that way. So you become fearless, you become bold, you don't have judgment or expectation of yourself or others, and you know that whatever comes on your doorstep, you're going to be able to manage it because you trust that you have the tools you need to experience life in the way that you wish.
Ah, wouldn't that be perfect?
Yes.
Experiments life like we wish.
At life that way. It's an adventure. It really is. It's a very meaningful, deeply rich and fulfilling adventure, potential for everything. But we're the ones who have to take it.
And we can wish different experience each day.
Correct.
It's like, yeah, it's like living to what you choose today sounds so refreshing.
Exactly.
What do you choose? Woo.
Yeah. And how do you want your day to be? You wake up in the morning, set your intention. What kind of day? Not, I want it to go this way. Not about control. What kind of day do I want to experience today? And it sets your mind and it programs your brain to have that kind of day. I sort of like invite the audience to sort of just try it out. Set an intention that has no judgment, no expectations. It's really about you. And then if you forget, remind yourself during the day. And if you have a challenge in the day, remind yourself of that. And then you're going to see that your brain's going to pivot and find you solutions and ways of understanding a situation and processing it in a way that serves that intention. So it'll be much more positive. And I'll give you an example. Some of the best days that a person has is not the day that everything goes well. It's actually a day where things did not go well, but they managed to surmount them and deal with them in the way they never imagined, right? So all of a sudden they found that, oh my God, it was like I had a flat tower and this happened. But like, it was a great day. I don't even understand why. Because they didn't judge it. They went with it. They were in their own flow and they never disconnected from themselves because of a challenge. They were totally connected and worked to solve things and they kept on solving things. So they were totally experiencing and expressing their inner power at all times. And that's when we feel our best, not when there's nothing going on, but when we don't take it personally, we don't take it too seriously, we don't get engulfed by it, and we don't attach unnecessary meaning to something. We just experience it and
Mhm.
do our best with it. And then all of a sudden we see the result. We're like, wow, I never thought this conversation would go so well. You have a conversation or whatever, and you know it's going to be tough. But all of a sudden it's not because of the way you showed up to it. So you can change your external depending on how you show up internally to the world. And that's super powerful.
I think the moment that I can set aside my worry about what they are going to think,
Yeah.
my day goes fine. When I sit and we're going, oh, I wonder how they're going to think. Oh, it's like some days I can come off real scattered. Some days I can come off too controlling. Some days I can come. It's okay. It's just what we are at the moment. And does it matter what the other person thinks? It does if you need to get something from them. But if you don't need anything from them, you're okay.
But if you need something from them and you really understand them, then you'll be able to speak to them in a way that they understand and they'll be more open and amenable to giving you what you need because you see them.
And wouldn't that be beautiful if we could see ourselves?
Yeah.
There's sometimes we see past someone else's stuff, but I feel safe sometimes behind my stuff.
But that's why exploration and curiosity really good for the brain because it allows you to go and start leaning into something without that fear or that needing to protect yourself.
You've given us so many ideas. I it's like I want to sit and process it all and come up with
Yes.
more, but sometimes I'm full.
Yeah.
It's like
That's it.
going to the best smorgasbord ever, but you still can't eat it all.
Yeah.
So I think we're full. Let's I think we've had so many good ideas, but I really would like our friend that's here with us to get to know you and what you do. And you've talked a little tiny bit about your book. So let's explore it a little bit more. And how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. So, my story is a little bit unusual. I started off as a corporate attorney for about 25 years, and then I had a very serious car accident where a car rammed into me and I lost consciousness and I was diagnosed with a very severe concussion. So I lost the use of my brain for quite a while. Would not be able to have a conversation, couldn't put words together, couldn't understand words together. And that led me onto this very deep introspective journey. And that's where I discovered all these layers that I had and all these fears and all these limiting beliefs from childhood. And as I was noticing them and just working through them, my brain was still not functional. And I started questioning that there was nothing holding me back. I didn't need to protect myself because my brain wasn't functioning. Our protection comes from our brain. Our brain tells us and gives I had no thoughts. I was just whatever was. I was very present in the moment. So I could feel fear, I could feel pain, but I wasn't afraid of those feelings. So I felt them deeply and then they just left. Because when you feel your feelings deeply, they don't stay stuck inside of you. They sort of go through you and they run off, which is very hard for us to sustain that. But in my case, my brain wasn't functional. So I just kept going. And as I was discovering all these limiting beliefs and this inner landscape and these layers and who are we versus who we think we are and whatnot, I realized that I had identified myself very much with my brain. I loved strategy. I love mental gymnastics. I love law. And so for me, it was like my brain, right? That's in charge. Um, but I didn't realize that had almost become my brain. You know, you can become an asset or a tool that you have, or you get a certain identity when we're so much more than that. And as I was working through that and my brain was still dysfunctional, I realized I'm not my brain. I'm so much more. So I stopped identifying myself with just my personality or just my brain or just my accomplishments. And it was like such a sense of relief and freedom. And then I was like, well, what's this awareness? My brain's not working. How do I know that I'm doing this? And then I realized we really are so much more than our brain, and we have an awareness that's greater than just our brain. And it is what needs to be in charge, not our brain. So we can redirect our thoughts. We can understand our emotions differently. We can change our story. We can interpret it, sort of an action, or we can interpret an event in many different ways, and not a story that our brain necessarily tells us. And that awareness is our consciousness. That's our inner power. And then I continued to heal myself. And then I realized, okay, this wasn't just for me. This was wonderful, but it's not just for me. I need to share this to the world. And short story is people started coming to me, asking me for, for consulting, for advice on leadership, on self-leadership, not just on law. And then I ended up slowly pivoting to now I'm pretty much full-time, just a life strategies and leadership coach. I'm an award-winning best-selling author of the book called No More Layers, Discover Your Inner Power and Reclaim True Freedom from the Inside Out. Because when you really understand yourself is when you truly can become who you are. And that is really the feeling of true freedom. It starts inward. Everything starts inward. I'm a speaker. I give workshops, one-on-one coaching. So in any way that, I can help your audience, I'm so happy to. Um, I can easily be reached through my website, www.martinecohen.com. I also have a little gift for all of the listeners today, which is on the website. There is a free 2-day reset where you learn about, inner calm and inner peace and how to quieten your mind. It's like a 2-day little challenge with a worksheet, videos, and they're free to reach out to me at info@martinecohen.com. I'm more than happy to respond. And I always say that I have this virtual open door policy. So I'm happy to connect with the audience.
That's awesome. So I know you kind of mentioned a one thing we could do this week. Um, but let's frame it. So we always end with, what's that one thing I can try this week to to get rid of some of those layers?
So I would start by making one commitment that you're going to do for yourself that helps you to figure out who you are or something that you really enjoy that you've never done before. So get
Mhm.
curious. That might be scared. That might feel scary for some people, but just replace the fear with curiosity. It really works. And find that one thing and commit to doing it. I'm going to say 10 minutes a day in the morning. If that means you have to wake up 10 minutes earlier, go for it. And why in the morning rather than in midday in the evening? Because it sets the tone for your day and it lets you know, your body know, I can trust her. We're actually part of the equation. We're back on the priority list. It's not about time. It's not about how much. It's not about quantity. It's simply about consistency and about trust. The same way as you have to build trust in a relationship with somebody else, you have to build trust in a relationship with yourself.
Yes, and I don't always trust me. I keep working on that. So
A
it's a
whole
good
part of the
point.
book also about trust and relationship to self, because the most primary relationship we ever experience is not the one with our parents, it's the one with ourselves. It's the one that we neglect the most and we know the least about.
Hmm,
So it's something to explore as well.
awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Martine, for joining us today. Friend
Thank you so
Martine
much
and
for
I
having
are,
me.
yes, are not medical or mental licensed professionals. We're here for entertainment. People have been down a path, learned how to kind of get a little bit smoother and want to share it with you so your path can be as smooth as possible to reaching all your dreams, desires, and wishes. Thank you for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.